The conference room fell completely silent the moment the single dad closed his laptop, folded his employee badge into his hand, and quietly began placing his belongings into a worn brown backpack after hearing the cold words, "Do as I said or quit." No one expected him to choose the second option. The CEO stood at the head of the polished table, convinced that another employee had finally surrendered to her authority. But as the father calmly packed the framed photo of his 8-year-old daughter, every executive in the room realized they were witnessing something far bigger than a resignation. They were about to learn that dignity is worth more than any paycheck, and that the strongest people are often the quietest ones. Before we continue, if you believe kindness, respect, and second chances can change lives, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to spread kindness so together we can inspire millions with stories that remind the world humanity still matters. Ethan Carter had never imagined that life would lead him to this moment. 5 years earlier he had buried his wife after a sudden illness, promising her that no matter how difficult life became, he would raise their daughter Lily with honesty, compassion, and courage. Every morning before sunrise he prepared breakfast, braided Lily's hair the best he could after watching countless tutorials online, walked her to school, and then hurried to the headquarters of one of the country's fastest-growing technology companies. Ethan was not loud or ambitious in the way corporate leaders admired. He simply worked harder than anyone else, solved impossible problems, stayed late when emergencies appeared, and quietly helped coworkers without expecting recognition. His managers often relied on him during crises, yet promotions somehow always found louder voices instead. Still, Ethan never complained because every paycheck meant rent was paid, groceries were stocked, and Lily could continue dreaming of becoming a doctor one day. The company's new CEO, Victoria Reynolds, had built her reputation on ruthless efficiency. Investors praised her aggressive leadership style, and financial magazines celebrated her as the woman who never accepted excuses. Unfortunately, somewhere along the road to success she had begun confusing fear with respect. Meetings became battlegrounds where employees were criticized publicly for the smallest mistakes. Departments competed against each other instead of collaborating. Long hours became expected, weekends disappeared, and compassion slowly vanished from the office culture. Ethan watched talented colleagues resign one after another, but he stayed because he needed stability for Lily. Every difficult day ended with his daughter's smile waiting at home, reminding him why he kept enduring the pressure. One rainy Tuesday morning Lily's school called unexpectedly. She had developed a high fever and needed someone to pick her up immediately. Ethan informed his supervisor, completed every urgent assignment before leaving, and rushed to bring his daughter home. He spent the night beside her bed checking her temperature, reading her favorite adventure stories, and praying she would recover quickly. The following morning he logged into work remotely before sunrise, finished several important reports, and believed everything was under control. But that afternoon Victoria announced an emergency strategy meeting requiring every department head and senior specialist to attend in person. Ethan explained his situation honestly, offering to join virtually while continuing to care for his sick daughter. Victoria refused without hesitation. She declared that personal problems had no place in business and ordered him to appear physically within 1 hour. When Ethan calmly repeated that his daughter needed him, Victoria looked directly at him in front of dozens of employees and delivered the sentence that echoed through the conference room, "Do as I said or quit." Everyone expected Ethan to apologize. Instead, he quietly stood up, looked once at the photograph of Lily on his desk, disconnected his laptop, and began packing. There was no anger on his face, only peace. Years of silent sacrifice had prepared him for this decision. His daughter's trust mattered more than any title. As he walked toward the door, several co-workers lowered their eyes in shame, realizing they had witnessed courage rather than defeat. Some secretly wished they possessed the same strength. Victoria remained convinced she had made an example that would reinforce discipline throughout the company. News of Ethan's resignation spread across the office faster than any official announcement. Employees who had always admired his kindness began questioning the culture they had accepted for so long. Several key engineers quietly contacted recruiters that evening. Team leaders privately admitted morale had reached its breaking point. Clients who depended on Ethan's expertise suddenly experienced delays because no one fully understood the complex systems he had built over the years. Small cracks quickly became major failures. Within weeks, productivity declined sharply, customer satisfaction dropped, and investors demanded explanations for the sudden instability. Meanwhile, Ethan found himself facing uncertainty unlike anything he had experienced before. Savings disappeared quickly. Bills continued arriving. Some nights he skipped dinner so Lily would never notice the financial pressure surrounding them. Despite everything, he refused to let bitterness enter his heart. He accepted temporary freelance projects, repaired neighbors' computers, tutored college students, and even volunteered at a local community center teaching children basic programming. He believed that kindness never loses its value, even when the world seems unfair. Lily watched her father work tirelessly without complaining, and every evening she hugged him tightly, telling him she was proud of him. Those simple words became the fuel that kept him moving forward. Months later, something unexpected happened. One of the parents at the community center happened to be the founder of a growing educational technology startup. After observing Ethan patiently helping children who struggled with learning disabilities, he realized this quiet single father possessed not only extraordinary technical skills but remarkable leadership rooted in empathy. Ethan was invited to join the company, not merely as an engineer but as director of product development, where collaboration and compassion were considered strengths rather than weaknesses. For the first time in years, Ethan worked in an environment where people respected one another, celebrated teamwork, and understood that employees were human beings with families and dreams. At the same time, Victoria's company continued losing talented professionals. Board members launched an internal review after profits declined significantly. Interviews with departing employees revealed a common pattern. Again and again they mentioned Ethan Carter. They described how he had supported teammates, prevented costly mistakes, mentored younger staff, and held departments together through quiet service. The board realized they had lost their most valuable leader without ever recognizing his contribution. Victoria finally understood that leadership built on fear creates obedience only for a moment, while leadership built on respect inspires loyalty for years. One afternoon, Victoria requested a private meeting with Ethan. She expected resentment, but instead found humility. Ethan listened patiently as she admitted her mistakes and apologized sincerely for forcing him to choose between his daughter and his career. He accepted the apology, not because the past could be erased, but because forgiveness freed both of them from carrying unnecessary pain. However, he gently explained that he would not return. His new workplace had shown him what true leadership looked like, and Lily finally saw him coming home each evening with genuine peace instead of exhaustion. Some opportunities are not meant to be reclaimed because they exist only to guide us towards something better. As years passed, Ethan became known not only for creating innovative educational technology but also for building one of the healthiest workplace cultures in the industry. Parents were encouraged to attend school events. Flexible schedules supported families during emergencies. Young employees received mentorship instead of humiliation. Success was measured not only by profits but by the lives improved along the journey. Lily eventually graduated with honors, proudly telling everyone that the greatest lesson her father had ever taught her was that self-respect is never something you trade for security. The moment he packed his bag and walked away from disrespect, he unknowingly opened the door to a future filled with greater purpose than he had ever imagined. If this story has touched your heart so far, please write this in the comments. Kindness is true strength. Your words may encourage someone who is silently struggling today. As we come to the end of this story, remember that the world often celebrates loud victories, but the quiet decision to protect your values can become the greatest triumph of your life. Ethan did not win because he defeated someone else. He won because he refused to abandon the principles that made him the father his daughter admired and the person others would never forget. Sometimes walking away is not giving up, it is choosing a future where respect, compassion, and hope can finally grow. If this story moved you, please like this video, leave your thoughts in the comments, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to spread kindness so we can continue sharing stories that remind the world that kindness will always outshine pride. Thank you for being part of this journey, and never forget that one act of courage rooted in kindness can change more lives than 1,000 acts driven by fear.